Hey everyone, I'm John Storm with Armored Combat Worldwide and the Rock City Rogue Knights, and today I'm going to show you how to make your own Gambeson. Stay tuned. And we're back. Once again, I'm John Storm with Armored Combat Worldwide and the Rock City Rogue Knights, and today I'm going to show you how to make a Gambeson. All right, that's for your padded armor that goes underneath it's your Under Armour. Yeah, Under Armour. Not the brand, actual Under Armour. So the first thing that you're going to need to start off with is this book right here, The Pourpoint of Charles de Blois. I don't speak French. B-L-O-I-S, whatever that is. It's a wonderful book. It has all sorts of information on the construction methods. It gives you a couple different types of method. Because we are using this for going underneath our armor, we will not be using the button-up sleeves, which you'll see in the book. So that'll actually show you a method to go for pull-on sleeves as opposed to button-up sleeves. The reason being is you don't want those buttons sticking out and interacting with your steel. If you get a hit in the arm, you're going to feel every last one of those buttons. We also be using the historical method as opposed to the contemporary method. And those instructions begin on page 39. So make sure you give that a look. It gives you all sorts of information on what type of fabrics to use, how much you'll actually need to purchase. It's a wonderful book, but as LeVar Burton likes to say, you don't have to take my word for it. Anyway, so enough's enough. Let's get started. Okay, so you're going to want to just go ahead and go to the back. You'll see where all the cutouts are, depending on your size. And you basically just have to rip out all these pages and put them all together. Well, cut out all the pages. Put them all together like a giant puzzle. And then you'll find that you can cut all your pieces out like that. You're going to have to tape them all together. For this particular project, I wanted to modify the pattern, so I'm going to go ahead and use some brown paper here. And I'm going to take the tape of the cutouts that I got out of the book. I'm going to go ahead and place them on this brown paper, and I'll make a whole new set of patterns. Basically, I'm just going to trace everything out and then cut down what I want to cut down. So this is what I was talking about. My new Wimbledon is a bit shorter than my old Corozina, so I wanted to make sure that the tails of my Gambeson didn't stick out super far like it does right now. So I decided to go ahead and make a new one, and this one I was going to cut back a little bit, so I cut about 4.5 inches off the end. That's why I wanted to go ahead and create a secondary pattern out of the brown paper as opposed to using the original that came out of the book. So you'll notice that I'm going ahead and ironing this out. I've got it folded in half, and I'm ironing it out, the selvage ends together. And on your patterns, you'll notice that there are fold markings. It's important that you put those up on the fold of the fabric, so that way you only have to cut it out once and open it up. And now, like this right here that I'm cutting out right now, is the upper back. So pay attention to the instructions on the pattern, pay attention to the instructions in the book, and then try to lay out your pattern pieces accordingly to make the most economical use of your fabric. So for the outer layer, I'm using a black fabric. For the inner layer, I'm using a white fabric. And to make up the cushioning, we're just using some simple cotton batting. Real easy to find. It's the stuff you use that quilters pick up. I'm also showing you a different technique here where I'm just using chalk to draw out the outlines before cutting them, as opposed to cutting with the fabric or with the pattern directly on the fabric. Both work. It's really your call. The method wouldn't have really shown up very well on the camera for the other colors, but for this one it works just fine. There we have it. We've got our outer layer, inner layer, and our batting. Now we've got the drawing a center line right here. I did that just so I could get a nice square quilting pattern there. Now you can decide what type of quilting pattern you want to do. There's nothing that says you got to do the straight lines. I'm just going to the straight lines because it's simple and I kind of want to get this project done. You can go with the crisscrosses and all sorts of other stuff. You can find that in the book. It'll show you a couple optional patterns. This is pretty simple. I'm just drawing every 1 inch. Now for this, I went ahead and I'm setting the stitch to like a 3 mil wide stitch, so that way I'm not using as much thread. It goes a little bit quicker, and it doesn't have to be as secure just to do the quilting portion. When I go ahead and start attaching things, I'll drop it down to like a 2.5 mil length stitch, so heads up on that. And now for the tricky part. So right here, we really want to make sure we get those center lines matched up. That's another good reason to make center lines on your patterns. But that's just so we can make sure we get the center matched up, and then we'll match up the outer corners. And then if there's any difference in between, we can go ahead and pair that up quite nicely and pin it together before running it through the machine. Another thing to remember is that this entire assembly by this book, the patterns that they give you, it's all 1/2-inch seam allowance. So when you're attaching panels together, it's all 1/2-inch seam allowance. Just try to remember that. It'll tell you if there's any type of change. So read the book, pay attention to the instructions. Now we're going ahead and working on the front panels, and as you notice, I kind of paired it up with the existing back panels. I just wanted to line up at least one of those lines, one of the quilting lines, and then build the rest off of that. And right here, I just tried to make sure that everything was about as straight and square as I could make it, as I could by eye. I wasn't really interested in getting into a fight with a measuring tape and everything, trying to figure out exactly what's level, but I just did my absolute best on that one. This goes together much like the first one did. You're just pinning them all together and then quilting them before stitching the panels together. Stitching the front panels to the back panels is a little bit trickier than the other panel that you did earlier. So in this one, you really want to take your time and pinning everything up and matching everything together. So in this case, start at the corners and then work your way to the center with that fold there. Make sure everything's even. If you notice, I'm shifting it down. Pin in the fold, and then go ahead and get in the middle as well, in between just divide it up again, just to make sure everything stays firm. And then run it through the machine. Here we go. Now we're just trying on the body portion. So it fits. It's not real snug in there at all. Plus, I'm wearing a sweater on, so I wanted just a little bit of room. And if you notice, as I lift my arms, it's not pulling up the bottom of it at all. So it's exactly what you want. Well, that's it for today. So I really hope you enjoyed this. I really hope you found it helpful. Next week, we'll go into detail on how to make the sleeves and actually attach them to the body of the jacket. So once again, the book that you're going to want to look at is The Pourpoint of Charles de Blois, that name. So you can get this book at lulu.com for $35. I'll put the link in the description for you. And a quick shout out, next weekend is the ACW Nationals in Galveston, Texas. So for every one of our fighters that are heading out there, I hope you all really bring your A game. This is the big fights. So for anyone else, we'll try to make sure we get you guys some video and the likes of the fights. Till next time, I'm John Storm for Armored Combat Worldwide and the Rock City Rogue Knights, and we look forward to seeing you in the list. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, all right? See you guys next week.